Recording has now started. So this meeting is being recorded. We're also using Zoom's live transcription feature to enhance meeting accessibility. Now let's discuss the guidelines for participating in this meeting, which are on the slide in front of you and have been posted in the chat as well. Be respectful of each other and DSL representatives. People may have different perspectives on the proposed rulemaking. We want to hear your thoughts and ensure that everyone has the opportunity to speak. Please avoid interrupting others and remember to direct criticism at ideas rather than people. Keep your mic muted unless it's your turn to speak. Staying muted helps us hear you and you hear us. Provide comments during the hearing portion of the meeting. So as I mentioned, there will be some time for questions after the staff presentation on the proposed rulemaking, and we'll take your comments once the hearing opens. And finally, heed any reminders to follow these guidelines. You're here today because you want to participate in the rulemaking process and provide feedback. These guidelines will help ensure you have a fair opportunity to be heard. And if someone isn't following these guidelines, I will remind them to do so. After that, I or Amber, our hearings officer, may mute someone, ask them to leave the meeting, or remove them. I am joined here tonight by several members of the DSL team. Amber McKernan is serving as our hearings officer tonight. She will be presenting on the proposed rulemaking with Sheena Miltenberger. We also have Danielle Boudreau with us, who will be providing technical support. If you do find yourself needing technical assistance at any point in the meeting, please message us in the chat. Next, I will turn the floor over to Sheena and Amber for the presentation. They will be available to answer your questions at the conclusion of the presentation. To indicate you have a question, use the Zoom raise hand feature, which can be found by clicking reactions near the bottom of your screen. If you're on the phone, dial *9 to raise your hand. I don't believe we have anyone joining by the phone currently. You can also raise your hand at any point during this presentation. However, we'll be waiting to take your questions until after the presentation, and we'll take them in the order that hands were raised. And with that, I'm going to turn things over to Amber and Sheena.
Thank you, Leanne. Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us tonight. My name is Amber McKernan. I'm the Real Property Program Manager here at the Department of State Lands.
Hi, I'm Sheena Miltenberger. I'm a Rangeland Manager for the Department of State Lands.
So this marks the beginning of the informational presentation. I will be going through the first few slides, and then Sheena will be taking over from there. So next slide, please. Division 126 is a proposed new set of rules specifically addressing communication site facilities. Communication site facilities are defined as the towers, antennas, dishes, buildings, generators, propane tanks, solar panels, fences, and other associated structures or equipment used to transmit or receive radio, microwave, wireless communications, and other electronic signals. Types of uses currently on state land include radio repeaters, telecommunication services, emergency and law enforcement services, TV and radio broadcasts, internet services, cellular communications, and many more. The main goal of adoption of these rules is to address the current limitations that we've had in the Division 125 special use rules. Adoption of the proposed Division 126 rules allows DSL to meet management goals while obtaining the greatest benefit to the people of Oregon and the Common School Fund. The proposed rules will address the application and leasing process and make these processes more streamlined and efficient. They will also update the fee and rent structures to accurately reflect market values for each use type. This will allow us to manage these sites to generate revenue for the Common School Fund and ensure that fees and rates are fair and equitable. These proposed rules establish a process for co-location leasing that provides the department with direct communication with co-locators. And finally, these rules will allow us to adapt to changing industry standards and technologies over time. The process to create these rules started in February of 2021. To gather data for drafting these rules, the department reached out to 21 Western states and fellow landowning agencies such as the Bureau of Land Management. We collected information on fees, rates, uses, and processes, and evaluated the information received through our market rate study. The market rate study provided us with conclusions on use categories, specific use types, minimum lease rates, and rates for co-location uses. The study analyzed multiple data sets with different lease rate ranges to project the overall revenue a 20-year lease would provide. In the summer of 2021, the department convened a rules advisory committee with 8 members. The members included lessees, industry representatives, common school fund beneficiaries, and tribal governments. There were 3 rules advisory committee meetings held in which the market study and the draft rules were reviewed word for word. The final draft of the rules that are being presented here today incorporates many comments and concerns that were provided by that committee. Today's informational session and hearing allows the public, lessees, and stakeholders to ask questions and provide comments on the final draft. Following this hearing, the final draft will be presented to the State Land Board in the fall of 2022. If the State Land Board approves the final rule draft, these rules will then be published for official adoption and implementation. The creation of the Division 126 rules will result in communication site uses being removed from Division 125 special use rules. There have been no other changes to the Division 125 rules currently or in this process. And now I'm going to hand this off to Sheena, and she will be presenting on the specifics of the proposed rules.
So compared to the Division 125 rules, the primary changes proposed include updating terminology and nomenclature to reflect current industry standards and specified use type categories. The category for personal, research, and scientific uses aims to incorporate such as ham radios, seismic monitoring equipment, university research, and other small or minimal impact types of uses. The non-commercial category includes nonprofits, government, emergency services, publicly owned utilities, and other uses that do not result in financial gain. Commercial uses are delineated by categories of small, medium, and large, which is determined by the population size of the county where the communication site is located. Wireless cellular communications are in their own category due to the larger size of the sites, the more significant impacts to the property, as well as more extensive administrative work. Other major changes include the addition of the required pre-application meetings with department staff for applicants. This will provide applicants with transparency about the department processes and fees. We included specific timelines and deadlines for application processing and lease issuance. We also updated application fees, rent rates, and co-location fees and rent rates. The department developed a process for co-location leasing to facilitate more effective management of site co-locators and to replace the previous subleasing process. The department added requirements for decommissioning a communication site at end of life of structures or in regards to lease termination. Decommissioning requirements ensures that structures and equipments are not abandoned. So the anticipated outcomes. This effort was initiated to achieve compatibility with industry standards. These rules are expected to provide communication site leaseholders and co-locators with greater certainty in timelines and processing, a simplified path for co-locators, longer lease terms allowing up to 30 years to be compatible with industry needs, and allow the department to be responsive with lease modifications or technology changes. This concludes the presentation overview of the differences between Division 125 and the proposed Division 126 administrative rules for authorizing communication site leases on state-owned land.
Thank you, Amber and Sheena. For additional information and resources, you can visit the link that's shown here that goes to the proposed rulemaking page on the DSL website. We have, let's see, we have about 18 minutes to answer questions. I can't see currently if there are any hands raised. So there are no hands raised so far, but if you would like to raise your hand, you can click the reactions near the bottom of the screen and just press raise hand or push *9 if anyone is on the phone. If there are numerous questions, we just ask that you ask one at a time, then re-raise your hand to get back in line to give everyone a chance to raise their hand. So with that, you have a few minutes to raise your hand if you would like to ask a question.
So I am seeing no hands raised for questions. I do think we'll hang on for a couple minutes and see if any other folks join that may have questions before 6 o'clock.
Well, it looks like we don't have anyone else joining us for this portion of the meeting tonight. So what we're going to do now is we have about 15 minutes before the public hearing opens at 6. So we're going to take a 15-minute break and then we'll be returning at 6 so that anyone else who wants to join us for the public hearing can be there at the time. We can open the hearing and then hear your comments. So we're going to go ahead and we'll be muting and stopping our own videos, but this meeting will still remain open. So you can stay on the meeting, you can return back at 6, up to you, and then we will see you then. And as always, if you have any questions or any technical needs, feel free to message us in the chat.
Thank you, Leanne. Hey, Leanne, looks like we have 6:01.
All right, then I think I'm gonna hand things over to you to get started with.
Okay.
Do you want me to introduce?
No, that's good. I
Okay.
can take it from here. So it doesn't look like we've had anybody new join us. We have 3 participants. We appreciate you guys being here. Again, I'm Amber McKernan. I'm going to be the hearings officer for tonight's public hearing regarding rulemaking for authorizing communication site leases on state-owned land. So during this hearing, you have the opportunity to provide comments on the proposed rulemaking. Raising your hand is how you're going to indicate that you would like to comment. Raise your hand by clicking the reactions button, which is near the bottom of your screen, and pressing raise hand. I don't think we have anybody on the phone. If you're on the phone, you can press *9 to raise your hand. So we'll call on folks to speak in the order that their hands are raised, and you may raise your hands now if you would like to provide a comment. I'm going to go over the participation and commenting guidelines. Please keep your comments to 2 minutes. A bell will sound when you have 10 seconds left. Leanne is going to ring the bell so that you know what it's for. Okay, so that's what it'll sound like when your 2 minutes are close to being up. Please wrap up your sentence when you hear that bell. I'll also let you know when your time is over. Sticking to 2 minutes helps more people have a chance to speak, so we appreciate you doing that. If you are unable to stick to the 2 minutes, we can mute your mic, and we prefer not to, but we could remove you from the meeting as well. So tonight is one of several ways to provide feedback on this proposed rulemaking. If you don't have time to speak, or if you have more extensive comments, you can submit them by giving written feedback through July 31st. So with that, we're ready to begin. The virtual public comment hearing for administrative rulemaking for authorizing communication site leases on state-owned land is now open.
Okay, we have one hand raised from Matt. Matt, I'm going to go ahead and ask you to unmute yourself so that you can make your comment.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you, Danielle and Amber. And thanks to all of you for putting this on tonight. I really appreciate the chance to talk. My name is Matt Datura. I represent CTIA. We're the trade association for the wireless industry. I'll keep it very brief. I think we share the goal with DSL of figuring out a way to balance to public land use, especially as we look to roll out broadband and 5G across the state. I know that there are some concerns among our members with regard to the proposed rules, with a few of the issues with regard to fees and the impact they'll have in deployment. And I know a few of the other leasing provisions with regard to wireless communications, especially as members are starting to lay out more small cells to support 5G, which generally take up a smaller footprint than macro towers and will be rolling out more widely across Oregon. So members will be providing comment, more fulsome written comments on the 31st. And we look forward to keep continued work with you on these issues. And that's all. Thank you.
We appreciate your comment. Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to provide verbal comment this evening?
I'm not seeing any other hands raised at this time.
With no new participants joining this call, we are going to keep it open until 6:15. So we have another 10 minutes in case there are folks that join that wish to provide public comment. But seeing no other hands raised at this time, we will stay on the call and address any hands that are raised as we see them. And I would encourage any of those on the call who are not providing verbal comment to use the information on the slide if you would like to provide written comment instead. Okay. We have passed 6:15, folks. I see that nobody else has joined us, and nobody else has offered to raise their hand for a comment. I want to thank you all for joining us tonight. We greatly appreciate you taking the time to be here and provide us with your perspective on the proposed rulemaking. Seeing no other hands, I hereby close the public hearing for the administrative rulemaking for authorizing communication site leases on state-owned land. Please remember, you may also submit written comments through July 31st. Again, the information on how to do so is on the slide that's being presented right now. It can also be found on the DSL proposed rulemaking webpage. And we'll leave this slide up here for another minute in case you need to write the information down. Thank you again for joining us tonight.